Hello everybody and welcome to IRL F2 round 3 here at Great Britain. Today I'm joined by my lovely co-commentator Kevin Harrison.
Hello.
Lovely stuff. Now this is my first first main comms on this channel in about a season, almost exactly to this day, and I've been co-commentating this entire season so far with Mr. Kevin Harrison here on the mains, but now it's my turn to take over the lead because Kevin's bad. But anyway, Kevin, coming into this race, we had F1 here yesterday. I'm not sure who won or the story about any of the race because I wasn't there.
You can take a wild guess.
I'm gonna guess. For some reason, I get the feeling it might have been Matthew Walder.
You would be right now.
See, I'm a god. I know everything about racing. I'm that good. Don't even have to be there for the race. But anyway, Kevin, coming into this race, we saw a few drivers do quite well last week. Some maybe disappointed us a little bit, but coming into today's race, do you have any idea who you think might be able to do quite well today?
Well, obviously Adrian did almost get the win. I mean, if you remember back to it, I think it was 67,000, or actually no, I think it was 7,000 even, the gap from last week between himself and Ross Williams, who ended up taking the win on pens, only just. So if we're looking at it, a late safety car, if Adrian does end up getting a few pens by the end of it again, maybe someone like Ross Williams, maybe even someone like Tom Jewell as well. I know he's been doing quite good times. He's been doing low 24s, which are quite good, especially for F2. So yeah, you just never know, but I would be expecting the usuals to be up there, like Adrian, Ross, and the two AlphaTauri certainly do like to run in the top 5. One behind the other a lot, so yeah, I'd be kind of expecting something similar to that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, last week at Russia we had a pretty insane race, I like to call it, with kind of just trying to stay consistent. Only two drivers at the end didn't have a penalty, and as we have teammate drama, and only 7,000 split the race win, so it was really quite a race. And again today, penalties are a possibility by just going wide in a few certain corners or cutting in the really tricky Maggotts and Beckett's, one of the most famous sections of corners in the entire kind of F1 history. But this track can be a challenge for the drivers. Some are great at it, some aren't so much, like me. So coming into this race, Kevin, what challenges specifically do you think the drivers are going to have to deal with to be able to do well?
Well, I do know that if you're using a good setup, it is usually on edge sometimes for some corners. Maybe that's just me, because I know the quicker guys will be able to handle it a little better, but this is F2, so maybe expecting some spins here and there, you never know. But yeah, I would kind of think in terms of challenges, maybe Luffield might be a little awkward. I know that is usually quite an off kind of corner given how you have to enter it, and certainly with the gearing down and then exiting as well, you can lose the rear on there sometimes. Maggotts and Beckett's, you can gain and lose a lot as well through there, and there is a possibility of spinning, a small possibility. It does kind of put your car on edge a little bit there as well, so there is points kind of like those that I think maybe would be challenges, but in general I think it should be okay.
Yeah, I think this track has a lot of high speed corners, so drivers who maybe aren't quite as tailored to the high speed corners or have a very loose setup, ones that can, really throw out the rear, and you hit a curb a little bit too much, then I think this track can be really punishing for those sorts of setups, and it can throw you off and throw you into the barrier whenever it feels like it, whenever it pleases. But
oh, and Kieran Spears actually, well, we should probably have mentioned it by now, but Kieran Spears has just taken a provisional pole, only just ahead. That's 5 thousandths ahead of Adrian Ferrero, who has taken both poles in the first 2 rounds of the season, so maybe he's met his match for qualifying here today.
That is very true, because I don't think we've seen, is it Kieran?
Yeah,
we haven't seen Kieran race yet this season, so it's going to be exciting to see what he can do, only being 5 thousandths ahead of who has so far been our fastest driver, getting the race win on track last week and getting the actual race win the week before that and getting pole both times, like you said, currently running in second, provisionally with 12 minutes to go. Adrian has been really showing us his pace this season. He's looking like one of the strongest contenders for the title, as long as he doesn't get penalties like he did last week, which he got very early on in the race as well. Then obviously he can do very well. So it's going to be interesting to see what he tries to do today. Currently with a 24.5. I'm not quite sure what the fast times should be around here, but all I know is that's faster than what I could do, and I'm in F1, and that worries me. But the Renault team, again last week, they were at the back and they managed to fight their way through. Currently both have set their times on the mediums, but I assume they're going to go around again, go into the softs, because this track is an easy soft medium for sure, and I don't really expect to see anybody do any different. But today, Kevin, we saw that last week we saw the Renault team do quite well from coming far back on the grid and almost getting themselves a potential, like 1-2, not 1-2 because Paco had penalties, but a potential win and loads more points than the constructors coming into today in Britain. You know them more than I do. How well do you think they can do?
Well, it is an interesting one, because obviously they certainly have the pace to be there. There's no doubt about that. Currently just in the top 10, both of them on mediums at the moment. I'm sure they're going to be switching over to the softs by the end, but yeah, I mean, certainly in quali I think they should be able to be up there. I know they have been practicing a bit of slipstream as well, or at least that's what I've heard. So I mean, yeah, like by all means they could be going for this pole. Of course it looks a little bit of an advantage for Kieran and Adrian right now, but even like if you look at Tim, Adam and Antonio Moretti as well, like Antonio has shown signs of being even quicker than Adrian at some points, because if you remember in Australia he had that incident, but without it he could have went on to win that race potentially. And of course in the preseason as well he had a 19.4 in quali. I don't think he was able to match it in the actual thing, but if he was, it would have been certainly up there. So there's certainly people who can go for the pole, and I think the Renaults are certainly included in that.
Yeah, I think Antonio, he's been showing good signs of pace. He's been showing us little glimmers of what he can do, and we know that he can genuinely do quite well. But you know, the last couple of races haven't quite gone in his favour, as Luke Quinlan sets 24.8 to put himself in P5, just ahead of Antonio himself. I think he's been showing us what he can do, except by the end of the race he just hasn't quite been able to deliver, whether it's through no fault of his own or his own fault. So I think Antonio's one we still have to watch throughout the season. Still early on, as it's only round 3. I think there's still a lot that can change in his championship, depending on who picks up their form and who loses it, because we don't know if Adrian's going to be able to continue it. And I mean, Kieran, despite being a reserve, he seems to be quite quick so far. It'll be interesting to see what he can do. But the AlphaTauri team, currently Tom Schul hasn't set a time, and we got Tim Brusselens, who's invalidated on his time or outlap. He's on an outlap, sorry, should have looked at that. Currently Tim
is who on a lap, by the way. Antonio, as you were saying, he could be up there, so
okay. But yeah, as I was saying, the AlphaTauri team, I think it's both
and Ross Williams up there as well. Of course he took the win last week. It's 24.6 for him, so very small margins between the top 3.
Yeah, absolutely, all very
within
close.
Even half a tenth of each other.
I mean, yeah, even within almost 100th of each other. 100th? Yeah. Whatever, 100th of each other. I don't know. As I was saying, the AlphaTauri team, I think, is both our predictions for the constructors. And as you can see, they're both currently 4th and 5th. Coming into this race again, do you think they're going to continue their form and continue to try and lead the way in the constructors? Or do you think Renault, or maybe even McLaren with Ross having, looks like he's gone quite quickly today, do you think there are more challenges being faced towards them, or do you think they can still consistently deliver for the constructors?
Well, I mean, of course, when the question did arise was who we would, there you go, Antonio Moretti, actually matching Kieran's time. He should be behind by the F1 rules, but the game is that good that it's put him ahead. The person who sets the same lap first is meant to be ahead, but I mean, sure. Yeah, he has gone provisional pole there, so I mean Red Bull is certainly a team you want to look out for. Of course, Marcel also stepping into the, well, what you would call number 2 car really, because I mean you'd think that Antonio would be the quicker driver given what he's shown, but you never know, maybe Marcel could step up as well. He has shown good pace before in F2 of course, but yeah, it's really open, I'd say, for the championship, because AlphaTauri will be able to consistently be mid-points. It kind of looks like McLaren and Haas will be the ones going for the wins, really, and also Red Bull for certain as well. It's just kind of Antonio has had bad luck. He's had a DNF, I think, twice for the first 2 rounds, and certainly could have been a lot better for him in both races. But it's wide open, I think. Like, there's consistency for the AlphaTauris, as I said, and then Red Bulls, Haas and McLaren could all be going for wins, so it's completely, I don't know, I couldn't call it.
Yeah, I agree, because this F2 grid is stacked full of talent and some really good drivers. I like to think people who can race together and do well, and we've seen that as you can see, the front, the top 5 are all so close to each other, all within a tenth of each other, and that's really, really, really close. So coming into the final few minutes of qualifying, it's going to be quite intense to see who can manage to do what. But Marcel, Antonio's teammate, is currently coming through Vale to finish off one of his fast laps, currently in P11. Where is he going to go now? Can he get anywhere close to his teammate? Coming into qualifying towards the end, he only gets P10 with a 25 flat, which is not what he's looking for at all, almost 5 tenths away from his own teammate. So disappointing for Marcel, but luckily he still has plenty of time to be able to go out again, try and set another faster lap. But yeah, this track is one of the kind of staples of the entire calendar. A lot of people love Silverstone, it's famous, a lot of people hate it too, but it's the first ever Grand Prix, so there's kind of a historic good feeling that you get when you win around here for sure, and it's quite satisfying to drive, and when you do it well and you win, it's even better. So I think some drivers, if it was real life as well, would be looking to get more of the prestigious feeling of winning around this track, which can be quite challenging. Certainly can give some good racing, I like to think, with the high speed corners, despite the high speed corners. So I'm quite excited to see, but I'm also confident that we will see a safety car here today, because I don't know, it's just one of those tracks that always strikes me for a safety car, but it's always going to be a soft medium. But Kevin, how many people outside the top 10 do you think will decide to start on the mediums, and how much of an advantage do you think that could give them, maybe with the safety car?
Well, I mean, I think pretty much everyone outside of the top 10 would go with mediums, because as if anyone like watching this stream watched the stream from yesterday as well for F1, if there's an early safety car, the hards is pretty much the better strategy. I mean, if only one person goes on it, maybe not, but in general, going on hards, if there's an early safety car, is a better way to go, and if it's a bit later, then softs can do most of the race anyway. So it's definitely going to be mediums outside the top 10.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because there's been a couple of instances earlier on in the season where people outside the top 10 have only had like 3 people go on the mediums, which surprised me. But I mean, yeah, you know better than me. I didn't see the F1 race yesterday, which was unfortunate, but I'll be back. I think you'd be like to know. But anyway, we're coming into the final 3 minutes and a half of this qualifying session, so things are starting to get a bit more intense and stuff's going to start happening. What's that?
I've been following Louis Quinlan on his lap right now. He's going to be finishing up Sector 2 in a few moments once he goes through Maggots and Beckett's. It's looked like a pretty good lap, I have to say. He's currently on a 24.8, a small improvement. We'll certainly see him shoot up the grid, as it is so close in F2 here, as he is a tenth and a half up, which should put him around 6th place with Tom, maybe even break into the top 5. You never know. It all depends really on his final sector as he comes through. That's Stowe, I'm not wrong, but he's going to come through the final chicane now. A little bit of a lock-up maybe, or maybe a Codemasters on, I'm not sure, but he's going to come across the line. He was up before, and he is going to go into the top 5 with a 24.6, only just ahead of Jared, and only just behind Ross as well.
Yeah, P5 for Louis Quinlan right now. I don't think he's going to have time for another lap, which is disappointing for him, but Nice lap from him, sending himself into P5, splitting up Jared and Ross, who had a little bit of a fight last week, which was also interrupted a bit by Paco, but it was an interesting fight to see. But into the final 2 minutes, we're going to be seeing all the drivers coming out for their outlaps now, trying to set the fastest lap they possibly can. We got Ross on an outlap right now, Adrian.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd recommend Ross because he's kind of first of the people you'd be looking at for pole. He's coming through so right now.
Yeah, but he's about to start his lap coming up to Vale now. He would have time for an extra lap, really, if he wanted to, but that's probably not great if he sets a faster time. People going out a little bit earlier than what I was expecting, but that's okay. But Ross is going to begin. It's going to be very close up at the top with Kieran as well, seeing if he can beat Antonio when they're perfectly evenly matched. But Ross, again, he's still only like 200ths away from them as he locks up a little bit coming into the village. It's a tricky section here as he locks up again, which I'm not sure this is Codemasters or just him in general. But Paco setting a 24.5, almost flat, going ahead everyone right now, so he's put himself on provisional pole just ahead of Antonio, who's still yet to set his lap, so he's going to be doing that. Coming into Brooklands now is Ross, still locking up pretty much every single corner. Luffield, he takes a much closer line than I was expecting. Normally go a little bit out wide, but he set a purple sector 1 so far, coming down one of the straights. I don't know the name of the straights, coming into Cups, which can be a tricky corner. If you go out a little bit too wide or cut it too much, then you lose time and you, well, lose your lap as you invalidate. But he does that perfectly nicely, straight flat. Coming into Magnuson Beck, it's a very tricky section of this track, and it's crucial you get it right, and it looks like he's getting it right so far. Coming through Chapel now, misses the apex maybe a little bit, now accelerating down this DRS straight, heading towards Stowe, which again can be an invalidation, and at least on this game you can't cut it and go out wide and do bad stuff. But anyway, he breaks at the curb nicely, turning in, nice apex, gets out wide as well, getting a little bit on the curb, which is what you like to see. Coming into chicane into Vale to finish off his lap, locking up again. All these lockups are probably going to lose him time, but I don't think it's going to matter as he gets knocked down in 6th as Tom Jewell goes on provisional pole. He crosses the line to go in P2, a 10th, almost a 10th away from Tom Jewell, can't quite get the pole position, and he's not going to be able to set another lap, so that's P2 so far for Ross. Yeah, but Antonio, he's on a lap now.
Is about a 10th up in Sector 1 at least. We'll see in a few moments how much he's up in Sector 2, another 10th. So he can certainly be going for this pole position. Is of course Tom Jewell, a very good 24.3. Ross just behind him was a 24.4. Paco. Oh no, actually Antonio's invalidated, so he's going to be staying P5. It was looking like a potential at least P2, but that's pretty much out the window now. Ross Williams, is he going for another? He isn't. So that's going to be his day over. Kieran McDonald now, or sorry, I mixed him up. That's Kieran Spears in the McLaren. He's going to be approaching, so he is apparently purple in Sector 2 as well, as he's going to come through Stowe, approaching Vale now. Is a little bit of traffic, that's a racing point getting out of the way, so good for him as he comes through the final chicane now. Is he going to be able to do anything? Can he have a say to maybe go for his pole? Currently it's Tom Jewell, he's going to cross the line, no pole for Kieran, he goes at 24.4, only just behind Ross. And that's going to be a P3 for him, and that's pretty much everything done. I think Adrian Storm actually might have something to say. He's coming through the final chicane as well. 4/10 up, apparently. Or maybe that could be wrong, but...
I know a bit. 4/10 improvements can do anything as this grid is so close. He comes across the final corner, crossing line, only going P9, putting himself just inside the top 10, ahead of Adam Corrigan. But after that qualifying, looking how close people can be, Tom Jewell sets it lap time almost a 10th quicker than anybody else, putting himself on pole position with a lovely lap from him. But this grid is so close, with the two McLaren teammates being together with Kieran and Ross, and then the two Renaults together in P4 and 5 with Paco and Jared. And unfortunately for AlphaTauri, Tim Brussetin is always all the way down in P12. So Kevin, after that qualifying, do your thoughts on who can do well in this race? Have they changed at all, especially with Adrian being down to P7?
Well, I mean, going down the actual grid might be good to just get in quick though, 13 seconds.
First it is Tom, and then second it's Ross, third and Kieran, fourth Paco, fifth Jared, sixth Antonio, seventh Adrian, eighth Louis Quinlan, ninth Storm, I'm not going to finish this, 10th Adam, Marcel, Tim, Sean, Dominic, Race March, somebody.
Yeah.
But anyway, Kevin, have your predictions changed at all?
Well, I mean, as I kind of said, it would be close. I did say Tom could certainly be up there, the two Renaults as well, and they very much are. I do want to say though, people are, well, I mean Jared mainly, but some people do kind of think Adrian Villarreal is too quick for F2, and they were calling him like the Eric of F2 because of Eric's season 6. But you look at today, he's down in 7th, and I mean really, if he was going to be much quicker, I doubt he would have even got the pole if he was going to get a third lap in. I'm not sure what really happened, if he invalidated his last run or whatever, but I think this is proof that anything can happen, and if people practice a little bit, then I mean anything can change. Maybe Adrian was practicing the first 2, maybe others didn't, maybe others are practicing now, you never know. It's very close, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
a point that I do want to make.
I think it's a bit unfair to start calling Adrian the kind of Eric of F2 after season 6. I mean, Eric did cheat anyway, being in F2, because why not? So I think it's a bit unfair to kind of call Adrian the Eric of F2, as he could be challenged, and he was challenged. He wasn't that far ahead in Russia. He had a couple of penalties and everything was close still, so I think people treated him a bit unfairly. But apparently Adam...
And of course the race winner from last week, maybe a bit of confidence boost. Of course, going into Australia, he didn't even think that he'd be getting a podium. He got a podium, then he got a win the next week. I'm sure he didn't expect that, and he's starting P2 today with not exactly his teammate behind. That is a reserve, so they won't necessarily be helping each other out. He is kind of a lone McLaren, if you want to say, with reserve in the other one. But starting P2, maybe he could challenge Tom Jewell. Maybe Tom Jewell could launch a bit of a title fight, as he has been a little bit off. He's shown signs of being there. Of course, him and Tim really been close on pace, but after taking the pole today, I'm sure it's going to be a massive confidence boost.
Yeah, obviously, as Tom, we both know, is a quick driver. As long as he can deliver in the race, then obviously he has a chance. So as long as Tom does well today, then I think he absolutely has a chance to try and launch a little bit of a later title fight for sure. But Russ Williams down in P2 obviously is going to be strong. We already know that he's been strong the last couple of races, and he's hopefully going to be able to continue that form. But down outside the top 10, like I was saying, not everybody's gone on the mediums, only 3 with 4 on the softs. What do you think of that? Do you think that could be a sign that there might be rain coming in the race, as we know Britain is known for its rain?
Well, I mean, it's certainly possible, but given that people are on the mediums, and it's not like a small number, like it is 3 people, maybe, I mean, like I did it yesterday in F1, luckily for me it worked out anyway, but you can sometimes get messed up with like it not actually putting on the tires when you're pretty sure that it is. Like maybe you selected a strategy and then it just changed for some reason, but maybe some of them intended mediums. That could be a thing to consider, and maybe some of them think that the soft is just going to be better, and of course only 3 people on mediums, maybe they're just looking for a better start, you never know.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, as the final few drivers line up at the grid, we're about to get this race underway. Tom Jewell's going to lead us out with Ross Williams behind him, and then the other McLaren and the 2 Renaults behind them again. But anyway, as we start to rev, we're going to wait for that good camera, which we like to see. The 5 red lights are on. There's already penalties. There's people who've jumped aside. The Red Bull's gone. The red lights are off, and we are racing again with the McLaren. Looks like he's got a good start now. 9 dropping back, and there's already timing glitches, I think. But Shawnee Boy's apparently leading. What on earth is gone? There's a crash with the AlphaTauri already round. Tom Joe, he was on pole. He's already out. But the 2 people who've jumped aside are now in the top 2. Yellow flag is safe to 1. McKieran, he's currently in P3. Yeah. Ross has lost out position as the virtual safety car ready, which is
very much needed. Well, what just happened, of course, Tom Jewell he started on pole, he's last now. I was on board with Adrian Villarreal. It looked like a little bit of a contact, not with him, he just kind of was a bystander and certainly benefited. I didn't quite catch who was involved in that incident with Tom. I'm not really sure how he got such a bad start as well, because it looked like he was 3rd going into turn 1. Maybe the people who jump started kind of contributed to that as well, but very unfortunate for Tom, because it was looking very good for him as we finally get away again. Sean,
but anyway, here comes Luke Quinlan. He's going to be trying to make a move on Adam Corrigan, coming into Maggers and Beckers head, going side by side. Adam here has to kind of give him the inside there as Louis Quinlan makes a lovely move, moving himself up into P7, but currently the two people who jump started, which confused me greatly, are currently running 1-2. They're going to have to do a drive through now, but Kieran is currently in the provisional lead of this race with his McLaren teammate Ross Williams just behind him, but also Jared Fosbury having an awful start, except he's going to be overtaking Storm, Adrian Storm. Lovely overtake from him there, getting himself back up into the points and hopefully trying to make a comeback in this race. Paco Suarez, own teammate, going up the inside of Adrian, trying to get that P3 as the people who need to serve their drive through going into the pits already, so it was clearly a calamitous first lap for many people as everything happened. Loads of people stacking up in the pits, going very slowly in this nice slow pit lane, but currently the McLarens are apparent. Oh my god, this game's awful. I hate it with a passion. Okay, but anyway, a bunch of people in the pits. I'm not quite sure who. We're going to have a look now, as doesn't even tell me that. Cool, fantastic. Game bad, but currently, oh my god.
Oh my god.
Okay, so in conclusion, I don't have.
It's not even something that you can like look over. Like it's horrible. Right?
I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't know who's winning. I don't know who's where, because apparently it's Marcel just come out of the pits.
From fifth is first, and then you go back like that. The people in front have been in the pits. So it is Kieran leading from Ross, Adrian, Paco is in fourth, and Louis Quinn currently running in fifth.
So everything's just changed again.
The top three are certainly not the top three.
Okay, cool. Well, anyway, looks like Louis Quinn is doing alright. He's sitting in behind the Renault of Paco Suarez. I wish this game would fix itself eventually. They've had so much time, but they just haven't. Ah! It's impossible to commentate with, I hate it. But currently people are just sitting in a bit of a train coming into lap 3, so we're going to have DRS very, very soon, which is going to help obviously with overtakes, but I feel it's going to be a bit of a DRS train and people are just going to kind of sit together, vibe, have a nice time. But some drivers in this race I feel are going to need a safety car.
Finally going to fix it.
There we go. But only one person of the people who pit, which was Marcel, Adam Corrigan, Antonio Moretti, Adrian Storm, Tim Brusenius and Dominic Hurley, only Adrian Storm has decided to go on the hard, so he's going to the end now, which hopefully after the pit stops will help him. But the rest of the people on mediums, they're going to need a safety car to try and bring them back into this race. But Louis Quinlan, he seems to be one of the closest drivers to the next car, trying to fight to get himself deeper into that top 5. But he's currently splitting into 2 Renaults, so the Renaults currently doing quite nicely for their constructors, but not as good as the McLarens, who are currently running P1 and 2 despite one of them being a reserve. But I don't think Ross runs too much for his constructors, as I believe reserve points do go to constructors at the race for.
No, they don't. No.
In that case, never mind, ignore what I just said, as Adam Corrigan picks up his first penalty despite, other than the drive-throughs for jumping the start. Adam Corrigan picks up his first penalty, and to be fair, not surprised, it's Adam. But looking at it here, we had a chaotic start and the grid's been changed completely, but Tom Jules didn't pit after his little spin and is now still back in the points, P10.
Actually, no, he did get wing damage from it. So, interesting decision to stay out.
I mean, maybe you...
Unless he got it on this lap, because I'm pretty sure I saw him without wing damage a few laps ago. Maybe I could be wrong, maybe he's going to pit this lap, but right now he is out very much with damage.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, his start reminded me of Hamilton in, I think, 2018, where he spun as Paco Suarez sets the fastest lap of this race. So far as Adrian Storm picks up his first penalty this race, he's the only one in the hard, so that's not going to help him in the long run either, as he has to hold back the people who are going to be on the mediums later on in the race. Tom Jules pitting though, it's a really disappointing start from him, considering he started on pole and the jump starters clearly got past him or something, maybe confused him, made contact, spun as Marcel's left the session, which is not going to help the Red Bulls at all, considering they've now basically got no points. I have no idea why Marcel's left, maybe lagged out, but he is gone and he is not here any longer. But up at the front still, kind of the closest train, as Tom Jules dropping back as he pits for that new front wing. Still at the front are basically the only people within a second of each other, with Jared being the final person on that train, all within DRS, so they're all sitting together nicely. Moves that are going to be done at this stage in the race I feel like are quite unlikely, and I would rather personally sit behind and harvest all that ERS. Kevin, if you're in these drivers' positions, what would you do?
Well, I mean, I think it kind of depends where you are. If I was Ross, I would certainly be sitting behind, but if I was anyone behind Ross, I would be kind of wanting to get a bit of a move on, try and gain some positions, and if that wasn't possible, then maybe start looking at an undercut, because it is quite strong given how long the pit lane is as well. If you can get a good a good outlap. If you can get a good outlap, you can certainly gain some position. So yeah, as I said, if I wasn't like in the top 2, I would be looking to make some moves to try and be able to save some ERS in a slightly better position.
But that's for sure. Also, Kieran and Ross are not actual teammates, but on the track they are. They're both in McLaren, and times have gone completely. So cool, no gaps for you because this game hates you. But
mine's fine.
Mine's not. All I know is that Antonio's 2 seconds behind Adam, as looks like somebody's gone off. That's Adrian Storm going out wide, getting overtaken by Tom Jill. But as I was saying, the McLarens, they've got to pit on different laps anyway, so Ross might have to try and undercut his on-track teammate to try and get an advantage. He kind of cuts through Beckett's, which is not going to help him with warnings and penalties. Who?
And he's out.
Oh, safety car. So that's going to bring the people at the back of this race back into it, as they're currently on the mediums, but they'll probably have to pit again. And it's a little bit early for the soft runners, don't you think, to be able to try and take the mediums to the end?
Nah, if they go on hards.
Okay,
it's easy to go on hards.
Everyone's going into the pits, everybody at the front.
Or they should be. It's what you would expect for going on hards. It should be hards to the end. If they go on mediums, they simply won't make it.
It's very interesting to see.
Useless.
That's Paco. I've no idea how he crashed.
Yeah, there's hards. I see some hard tires going on there. Actually,
and there's a double step for the McLaren team as Ross Williams, he's being held. He's being overtaken by people like Jared. He's being overtaken by people like Louis Quinlan. He is dropping back as he's putting on the hard tires too with Adrian.
Yeah, Kieran put on mediums. Adrian also putting on mediums. And Jared as well. So very interestingly split strategies here.
Yeah, I was about to say
the mediums, I really don't think, like maybe just, but the hards are going to be way better by the end of this.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see, as you were saying that the hards are the best strategy and the mediums you'll be finished if you do that, as Sean at the back also goes on to the mediums too. So pretty much everyone, even if they pit before, are pitting again under the safety car, which is also interesting to see. But
because usually you go 15 laps on the mediums, they have to go 20 now. Well, not necessarily 20, but like 18, 19. It's a lot more than what you would normally do on hards. Obviously they're going to be fine by the end, so it's like, it's really how much can they gain. And I'm not sure if it will be puncture territory given when the safety car was. I think we got our safety car yesterday on lap 4, which made the hards a little bit more obvious of a choice. But given the timing of this, it's a very interestingly split decision, that some people think the mediums being quicker to start will be better, and others thinking no, the hards with being like a little bit more secure by the end of the race is going to be better. And first of the hards, by the way, Louis Quinlan, and of course none of the top guys having pens yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a good strategy call from Louis Quinlan, possibly, depending on if there's another safety car later on in this race. But one man has decided to be different from the rest is Reece March. He's on the softs in front without pitting, so he's currently leading this race. For how much longer, I have no idea. Why he stayed on the softs, no idea. But he is having a lovely time in the front, and he's going to take those few seconds of glory. But Ross Williams having a horrible pit stop, being stuck behind his teammate who's gone onto the mediums, which, as you say, is the worst strategy, and maybe that's even affecting his race, and it makes it even worse that it was the wrong strategy that he's chosen. But he's now back in P6 behind Jared, who is the unfortunate teammate of the same driver that crashed out of this race. Do you know how Paco crashed out of this race? Because I completely missed it as my timing died.
Going out of Maggots and Beckett's, pretty much got up on the grass, and then his car got slightly unsettled on the curb, and it spun him round in right, basically, like it spun him right the way into the wall, all the way on the right. Really nothing he could have done.
I mean, we were saying,
just an unfortunate exit. We've
been saying that Maggots and Beckett's is one of the trickiest sections in F1, at least in my mind. It's one you have to get right, and unfortunately Paco, something went wrong for him, and it's ended his race completely, as he's now in the wall and caused the safety car, which I suppose it's okay, but it's unfortunate for Paco. Not much he really could have done, like you said. So that's sad to see, but there's still Jared there to try and get some constructors' points home with him. So let's see what Jared can deliver. He's on the medians though, and I guess this is one thing we're just going to look out for the rest of this race. Just looking at how well the mediums drivers can get a gap, somehow hold on to their tyres and not get overtaken by the hards at the end. I mean, if there's another safety car, then the mediums drivers have quite possibly made just a strategic masterclass and, you know, given themselves a great race, as Dominic Hurley is so far behind and he's pit again onto the hards. I've no idea why or how, but he's probably going to hold us up maybe even another lap, and that'll be annoying.
Yeah, because it doesn't go in sector 3, it has to go in sector 2, I'm pretty sure. Or that's how the game works. So the safety car will have to go out or stay out on the lap.
Yeah, one thing I've been noticing...
I mean, it came out on lap 6, I swear, right?
I thought it was lap 5.
Okay, yeah, no, 5 makes more sense. So... Or, well, maybe, I don't know, because they did pit, so that would have taken a bit of time. I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Lap 6, maybe it was lap 5, but, I mean, if it was lap 6, then it's meant to go another lap anyway, and Dom was caught up, so it'll be in the next lap otherwise.
Yeah, but I've noticed throughout this season that Alfa Romeo have not had good safety cars. Either they're the cause of it, or they'll get a safety car that advantages them, and they somehow ruin it. Through, I don't know how, but they do. Like Dominic pitting 2 or 3 times onto the same safety car. Either onto the same tyres as he was on before, or completely different ones. It confuses me. And then there's Adam Corrigan maybe getting himself a penalty or wing damage by hitting into somebody. And yeah, so I think the Alfa Romeo team have had a pretty awful start to this season so far, and they're going to look to try and improve that later on. But currently in this race, it doesn't look like it's their race. But both of them on the hards, like you say, better strategy. Maybe that's going to help them if there's another safety car and they get it right, go through the field and finally pick up some points. Maybe, but Reece March, I've no idea why he stayed on the softs as well, despite seeing everybody pit. I mean, he's just going to fall back and go to the back unless there's some sort of almighty crash and another safety car almost instantly. I don't really see him doing quite well. I mean, he's had good pace the last few races, but he's been making mistakes and he's had a very oversteery setup. I haven't seen much of him today, but if you've seen anything, do you know if his, you know, kind of traction in corners and consistency has improved at all?
You're honestly a little laggy, so I didn't actually see, or sorry, I didn't hear who you were talking about.
Reece March.
Okay, Reece March. Well, no, I haven't really seen enough of him to know, but I mean, the softs should, in theory, at least give him a better restart. So it's kind of like this start. Well, the restart, I think, will kind of decide. It'll kind of like, not necessarily decide, but it'll kind of set up the remainder of the race, as long as there's no more safety cars for the end. Because if Ross gets a good restart, maybe the hards will work out for him better. If Jared gets a better restart, maybe the medium runners will start pulling away, and it'll be difficult for the hard runners to get back. So yeah, it's very dependent, as Reece has actually gone into the final chicane.
Yeah, Reece has got us racing once again, except Kieran, he's right behind him. He's still very close to him. It's not going to be an easy move if he tries to make it into Abbey, but Adrian behind him still doing well. He's made up a few more positions in this race, got himself back into it. Now currently in P3, Kieran sitting behind Reece March, as Reece, he's on the softs right now, except they're getting older, so it's going to be a bit harder. Kieran is on the mediums, which are probably going to be better, as it looks like there is a racing point off at the back. That is Rutty Boy, who I was never actually told the name of, but he's round and he's off. What's that?
That's Chris Rutt.
Chris Rutt, there we go, cool, I could do that. But anyway, he's round already, and that's not going to be a good start for him. I'm not sure how that happened, but it's a yellow flag and nothing more of that has really come other than ruining his race a little bit. But Kieran all over the back of Reece March. He hasn't been able to make a move just yet, but he's there, and Reece knows it. He knows he's there, and he's going to be feeling it. As Kieran, he's going to be pressuring him for probably the rest of this lap and maybe make a move coming into Stowe, I reckon. But Adam Corrigan, he's quite close to the back of Marcel, but through Marcus and Beckett's cups here, I don't really see anyone trying much of a move, if I'm honest, but it's a bit hard. You have to get it right. But Kieran, he looks like he's so much quicker than Reece March. What are you saying?
Yeah, I was just going to mention Kieran because you were looking at him, but he is right up the back of him. He might dive it down the inside. You never know. It looks like he may have. He might have went for a bit of a front wing up the inside, but he's going to be sticking behind right now. Reese March is going to continue to lead this race. Of course, his softs are certainly going to be getting quite old at this point, so he's probably going to be struggling a little bit. As you can see, Ross Williams really closing up. But something I do want to mention, sorry, I'm mixing up Tim Clarence. Well, yeah, I wanted to mention Ross Williams has fallen off the top 5 a little bit on those hards, and he doesn't have DRS anymore. No one has DRS behind him either, but he's kind of falling back into 6th place on his own.
Yeah, that's true. I think Louis Quinlan right now, who's getting pressured by Jared, is also falling off the back of the grid as well, but he's being able to stay there a little bit more, maybe through a bit of slipstream or just the people ahead of him fighting and going a little bit slower. But he is under pressure from Jared, who again is clear still of Ross Williams behind him. So maybe the hards aren't working out right now, but as it gets a little bit later on and the mediums get worse, then it's going to improve for him. But Kieran, he's all over the back of Reese March. He's trying desperately to get past, but he's just not quite finding the right opportunities. Maybe he's going to try it into Stowe again. He tried it last lap and it almost worked for him as he went up the inside, locked up a little bit, but Reese March managed to stay ahead. It doesn't look like he's had quite good of a run as he did last lap, and I don't think he's going to be able to get close enough as he's not using his overtake. They both have almost equal on their ERS, but there you go. Kieran isn't able to make a move this time, and Adrian still sitting behind, gapping a little bit to the hards of Louis Quinlan behind, stuck behind. I've said behind so many times, oh my god. Yeah, he's just kind of sitting there waiting for these two to fight it out. It's kind of a provisional 1-2 for Kieran and Adrian right now, as DRS is now enabled again. This is going to help Kieran try and get past Reese, who has no DRS himself, except Adrian. He looks like he's trying to go up the inside into Village. Didn't quite do it. Kieran locking up slightly, still managing to gain more of a gap on Louis Quinlan behind. So it's very interesting to see as he's top 5 still close. We saw that before the safety car restart, and it's still the same case here as Chris Wright gets himself a 3-second time penalty, as Adam Corrigan and Antonio Moretti at the back going side by side. Coming up into Brooklands, it's going to be Antonio on the inside. Adam trying to go around the outside in that beautiful looking Alfa Romeo. It looks like Antonio still except Adam comes back, coming into the left field. It's going to be on the inside. Antonio holding around the outside. It's brilliant side by side racing from these two. Who's going to get the better exit coming onto the straight? It looks like it's Adam Corrigan so far, except it's Antonio who's still got a front wing there to hold in, and it looks like it's Adam Corrigan who's taking that position, except up at the front is Kieran, who's right behind Reese March, only a tenth away. As Cromack gets 3-second time, but yes, there's Adam Corrigan in his little fight with Antonio. But still, lovely stuff. It's Kieran with his DRS. He's right behind Reese March. He's going to be trying to go around the outside into Stowe. It's going to be a hard one, but he's going to try it anyway. He looks, he tries, he dives, and he goes around the outside of Reese March with a beautiful clean move. And now he got Adrian coming into chicane into Phil, going up the inside too. He's going to try and make it work. Made a contact. Reese March still on his side, and he makes a move. Adrian gets past up into P2, and the provisional his own teammate. Is there going to be team orders that needs to get that Louis Quinlan past, even though he's on the hards? Reese March's softs are clearly dying, and now there is a gap between Louis Quinlan and Adrian and Kieran ahead. He now no longer has DRS on them, kind of at this point. So
yeah, I did actually see Reese March in a previous race. Yeah, there you go. He is going to get out of the way of his teammate, because I seen him in another race do the very same thing. So now it's really Reese March kind of maybe going to be holding up the medium runner of Jared Fosbury. Of course, he's going to be doing his teammate a huge favour if he can keep him behind and allow him to gap Jared Fosbury a little bit, as Jared is actually going to be closing in on him. Reese March is going to defend to the inside, around the outside of Cops. It's very it's on the edge of making a move, I'd say, but they are going to be side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, and he's going to kind of cut him off there, going through Maggots, but it is going to work out for him as he goes up into 4th place. And now Ross Williams is going to have his turn. He's going to be looking at the outside.
So over the front, sorry to cut you off, but Kieran, he goes up the inside of Adrian, getting his lead back in this race. He's once again in the lead, except Adrian. He's going to be fighting again, coming into Vale. He's going to try and go up the inside, maybe. He lunges it, almost half-hearted, both of them locking up. Kieran takes her lead back in this race, which Adrian took off him earlier in the lap. So these two are fighting hard, still with a DRS gap between them, as Reese March finally pits. His softs are gone. But currently, Louis Quinlan hasn't got DRS to catch up to the people in front, both on mediums, him on hards. still so close are Adrian and Kieran. That's really scary to see.
Antonio gets a 5-second penalty in the pit lane there for speeding.
That's unfortunate.
So his race has really gone from bad to worse.
As Tom Jewell overtakes Croman as, oh my god, there's a lot of fight to go into the back. What is going on here? It's Marcel, he's side by side with the Ferrari. Red Bull and Ferrari both together. Oh, and oh my. Okay,
Yeah,
Sean going into the back of...
contact with the Ferrari there, and he's going to be looking at the outside. The Ferrari maybe is going to try and hang it back, but the Williams does move off to cover him off nicely there, mediums versus hards as well. And he is going to be going up into 8th place. So Croman actually losing quite a few positions there. And actually his name is Andy, I've just remembered. So Andy, just Andy.
Lovely, Andy. A nice big fight going on in the midfield right now. A little bit of a break from the weird stuff that's going up at the front, but that was an interesting fight that we came in midway through. So it looks like there's some fighting for the lower end of points with Tim Bruseli's trying to get involved as this Adrian Storm. So everything's going on at the back, but up at the front we can see that Louis Quinlan has no DRS on the 2 drivers ahead. And Jared, he looks like he might be trying to make a move on Louis very soon to try and get himself back into this race. Louis is the leader on the hards, whereas everyone else around him is on the medium. So halfway through this race now, we're on to lap 14. It's looking okay for the medium runners, but how will their tyres last towards the end of this race is something that we're just going to have to watch and wait and see. But Ross Williams, he's trying to make a comeback in this race on his hards. He's just behind Jared, who's currently stuck behind Louis Quinlan. So Ross, if he fights hard enough, then maybe he's going to be able to get himself back onto the podium and keep it a nice 3 in a row in terms of podiums. I mean, we've seen that consistency in getting podiums can win you championships. It's happened for you and multiple other people. I think Jared as well. So
yeah, I do want to mention, by the way, crucially, Marcel didn't actually have DRS on that last straight, following behind Tom Jewell, and of course Tom is 5 seconds off the lead, and he did start pole, so he certainly has the pace, and he's almost pretty much gapped Marcel, as Marcel does get back in the DRS range, but he did not have it, or at least he didn't activate it in the last straight. So it is kind of getting to the point where Tom has almost gapped Marcel enough, and he can really focus on catching the top guys. Of course, he is on hards.
Yeah, depending on how much the top guys fight, which it looks like Ross Williams might begin to do, which he didn't do, as Jared breaks so much later than him, almost going into the back of Louis Quinlan. Depending on how much these top few guys fight, then that's going to determine if Tom Jewell can get back into this race. But right now, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all very tightly knit and having a fight with each other. So Tom is about 4.5 seconds behind, and it looks like he's catching.
Yeah, he has actually, because he was 5 seconds behind on the last lap as well, and finishing it up. Now he's 4.
That looks like it's Antonio,
so he's
though,
actually catching quite significantly.
Antonio at the back, somebody who we've been saying could be doing so well, is parked off at the side after having some sort of spin, maybe on his own, because he's so far behind everyone. I have no idea what's happened to him. Completely missed it, except Ross Williams. It looks like he might be trying to look up the inside of Jared. He is, except he can't quite find any space, almost making contact with his rear, getting so close, almost pushing him around left field. So those two getting so close together, and Jared and Louis Quinlan both now have penalties, so that brings Tom's gap to about 1.5 seconds instead of 4.5. So Tom's even closer to a podium than he was previously, with them picking up penalties. So it's very, very interesting to see. Except Adam Corrigan behind Andy, I thought he was going to be making moves. He's only a 10th behind, but it doesn't look like it. Ferrari B team versus Ferrari A team. It's not a thing in IRL, but in real life it is. So that's going to be fun to see. He's going to have DRS on Andy now. He's going to tuck into slipstream. Surely he's going to be able to make this move with Tim Bruseli's also maybe trying to, again, Andy looked like he tried to defend the inside, but Adam's just breezed up the inside, except Andy almost going for it again, trying to get up the outside maybe, but nice easy move for Adam. My commentator was awful on it, but never mind, I'm sorry. But yeah, nice stuff from him, nice to see. But Kevin, at this stage of this race, 10 laps to go, who do you think's in the driving seat, and what do you think's going to happen for the hard runners coming towards the end of the race?
Well, I mean, in the driving seat, maybe not in terms of tyres, because this is around the point I would think that the hards are probably at least going to be on par with the mediums at this point, as Jared. On the flip side, though, kind of disproving my point, is right up the back of Louis, so maybe Louis not responding to the hards as well, because of course Ross is following quite closely as well, and Tom Jewell also closing up, so maybe that's why maybe Louis just isn't responding to the hards on his own and everyone else is. But I would say the top two very much are, given that third and fourth have penalties, and they are also going to be fighting. Ross Williams is going to have to watch this. He can't really do much about it, as Jared Fosbury does kind of close, but it looks like the second part of Maggots and Beckett's didn't go quite as well for him, so he's really going to have to activate the ERS as he does, as he barely has any, as he actually goes to 0% there. So no moves for Jared Fosbury now.
Yeah, Jared, he's really done himself with his ERS. Being on 0% is, well, really awful, if I'm honest, because you need that DRS to be able to make moves on this game, really. As Adam picks up another 3-second time penalty, and as does Adrian. Adrian's just picked up a penalty, which makes Kieran's life at the front so much easier for that reserve. So lucky him. But Jared, he's so close to Louis, who's just got another 3-second time penalty. He's so close to him, but just isn't able to make a move right now. And now he doesn't have to make a move because he has less penalties than him. But if he wants to try and get closer,
by the way, for Tom, 3.5 seconds.
Tom
4.5.
Tom closing more and more. Hang on a second. Ross Williams come out of nowhere. Going up the inside to Jared Fosbury. Jared trying to hold it around the outside. On the inside to left field again. McLaren trying to go around the outside. Except Jared looks like he's going to be able to hold on to it for now. Oh, there's contact. Ross Williams going into the grass. Losing time. I guess who gets even closer from that? That's right. It's Tom Joe. He's been gaining ever so much through his last few laps. And he's only going to keep gaining, as he's now within the penalties range of some of the drivers ahead of him. So Tom looks like he's going so strong right now. But Marcel, he's within his DRS, so he could be under pressure at some point a little bit sooner. As Marcel looks like he's going quick, and he's got Shawnee Boy and Toe behind him as the yellow flag is sector 2 and 3.
Inside for Adrian, by the way. Adrian and Kieran going side by side. Adrian tried it into Stowe, but he wasn't actually able to make it work on the inside, and Kieran was able to hold it on the outside. But certainly Adrian is looking for this move, and he's not giving up on the win, it seems. He's still actually closing up, maybe into turn 1. It would be a very bold move. They are going to be side by side going through turn 1, and Kieran's going to get pushed wide a little bit, and Adrian is going to make the move. A very, very bold move, a very, very great move to go up into the lead of the race.
Yeah, it's a fantastic move from Adrian. Absolutely beautiful. It takes guts to try and go up the inside into Abbey, and that's what he did. He did it perfectly, executed it to perfection. He gets himself back up to the lead of this race, but right now as it stands, he's not going to win this race due to his penalties. And oh my, Kieran came from a long way back. He just went so hard on the brakes, much later than Adrian managed, and he's actually looking almost to try and make a move. He's looking like he wants to fight, despite having the win in the bag as it is. This isn't going to help their tyres, which they need to try and conserve. But Adrian has a penalty.
With penalties, interestingly, Adrian was actually going fine. He didn't have a single warning around lap, I think, 14 or so, and then in I think it was 6 laps, he got a warning every second lap, and it gave him the penalty. So he was actually doing okay to start. Kieran, by the way, has 2 warnings himself, so he is certainly close to getting a penalty, so you can't count it out. So that may be why he's trying to fight it. Maybe he thinks he's gonna get that last 4 warnings, which means he does need to win this on track, maybe in his mind.
Yeah, Jared's just got past Louis Williams to get himself up to P3 as well, but as you were saying, that's a really good point. Maybe Kieran also himself doesn't trust himself to not get another penalty and doesn't want to put himself in a weaker position. But Adrian, he lost the race last week because of a penalty. He doesn't want that to happen again, because that would be horrible for him, and it would feel bad, very bad, as Reece Marsh makes an overtake of Chris Rutt at the back of the grid. No points being gained for that, but you know, it's nice to finish a little bit higher. But here comes Kieran. He's so close to Adrian. He's going to go up the inside into Brooklyn's easy move. He gets past on the brakes, except Adrian, he's not going to give up. He's going to try and find a way past again, except it doesn't look like that's going to happen for him. Kieran, he's back into the lead, and he's back into the driving seat, and he's perfectly safe here with the penalties, except we know that Adrian, he still fights, and he will still fight as Tim Brusens gets past Andy at the back for P9, get himself 1 extra point. But coming to Maggots and Beckett's now, Adrian's behind Kieran. Adrian's going to have to fight so much harder, maybe even have to try.
I'm not sure if that's going to be a... Yeah, no,
I don't think so.
He went around in turn 4, and yeah, he's going to be able to continue. No damage.
Yeah, nice and easy, but Ross Williams, he's right behind Louis Quinlan. Louis Quinlan right behind Jared. Louis pulls up to the inside, he tries to go for a move, spins himself. He spins himself on the rear wheel of Jared. Is that going to be a virtual safety car? Maybe he's getting overtaken after overtake, just going past, dropping back to the grid as he tries to make a move up the inside, makes contact, spins round, loses Ross Williams a bit of time. He had to try and avoid him. Luckily, he ghosted. Jared, he's up into a nice, easy P3, but Ross Williams, he gained positions last race from not having any penalties as Chris Rupp retires from the session. What's that going to be 6 laps from the end? Is there going to be a virtual safety car at all as more penalties starting to come in? As also Andy retires from the session in the final corner. I have no idea how that's happened. I don't know what's going on in this race as everybody seems to be going off. Looks like there's no safety car, a virtual safety car right now. So everything's okay and we're still racing. Tom Drew only 2 seconds behind the next car of Ross Williams ahead. Ross Williams, as I was saying, he had no penalties last week
like
and got himself a win.
Crashed in the final corner.
Yeah,
Maybe he hopped over the curb in the final corner, I'm not sure, but he very much crashed. It wasn't an on-track retirement.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I'd see how he crashed in that corner, but it wasn't one I was expecting to see in this race. So it's unfortunate for Andy and Chris Rupp, but that's brought an end to their race. And Louis Quinlan also losing himself time trying to make the move on Jared. I'm not sure who was at fault really, but I know Louis Quinlan has a habit of aggressive moves. So Ross Williams, as I was saying before, he has picked up a win this season from not having any penalties. Currently has no penalties today. He's behind Jared, and if he gets in front of him and then gains like another 3 seconds or like another 7/10 on Adrian, then he can get himself a P2. And if Kieran gets a penalty too, then well, it's another race win on penalties for him. But currently 5/10 behind Jared. How well do you think Ross Williams can do in this race now, providing nothing goes wrong for him?
Well, I think he could push for a P2 potentially, because if you remember back to what I said at the start, lap 15, if you start on the mediums, would be around the point you want to pit and then go softs to the end on a normal strategy. And those mediums are almost at that point. So Ross Williams really should very much be on the better tyre at this point. He's about 4.5, 5 seconds behind the leaders, but he's gonna be quicker. So if he can make this move on Jared Fosbury soon,
hang on,
he might be actually. Speaking of a move, Adrian's gone down the inside and retaken the lead just before Cops.
Yeah, I completely missed most of the move, but I saw them going side by side on the exit of Loffield, and there you go. Adrian's back into the lead, and Kieran again is behind. So these two are still fighting at this stage of the race, and it's gonna lose some time as well with Russ trying to get past Jared and trying to catch up. You watch Russ, I'll watch Kieran, who looks like he's got DRS. He's gonna be trying to make the move on Adrian again. He pulls the inside. Adrian can only defend the outside, and it's the McLaren. He puts himself back into leaders. Russ makes a move on Jared as well, and he's up into P3. Kieran up into P1. Both McLarens making a move, both going up one position, both are being successful. So it's lovely for the McLaren team right now. They're doing well. Only 5 laps to go on this one as Tim Brusilians gets past Louis Quinlan.
Inside of Louis Quinlan, and a little bit of contact almost spun Tim Brusilians around there, but he was just able to keep the car steady, and he is going to make it up into P8.
Yeah, nice from Tim, getting himself a few extra points. As Tom Jewell 1.8 seconds behind Jared now, who's losing a bit of time to the hard running Ross Williams.
3.7 seconds behind the leaders, and if you look at that gap, he's actually been he's almost out of the DRS of Jared already, so you can see the pace difference, and he's really, you can see those tenths going down very, very quickly to the lead, the leaders really. And if you remember, this lap really would be the last lap you want to be on the medium. So after this, those mediums are going to be really, really bad, and those hards are going to really come into their own. And I mean, you can see it, he's 3.2 seconds behind now. He was 3.6 only 2 corners ago.
Yeah, you said that the hards were the better strategy.
1, almost 3 seconds.
You said that the hards were the better strategy, and it looks like you are absolutely right, as Ross Williams is flying compared to the mediums. He's getting ever closer. He's within almost the range of taking that P2 from Adrian, but can he get the win? Can he close up enough in these final few laps? There's not long left to go. Ross needs to keep up this pace. Is he actually losing time now, and losing time to Jared, who's stayed in DRS? But Ross, if he just gains, if he keeps pushing, and Kieran gets another penalty, then he can win this race if he keeps going. There he goes, back up to 2.9. So we're just going to have to keep a close eye on Ross, and he has to put his foot to the floor to try and be able to secure the best possible position he can. But Adrian and Kieran, they're still close together, and they're still fighting. Look at that, almost a tenth, almost under a tenth between them. as Adrian and Kieran both locking up almost every corner in their desperate bids and attempts to try and get past each other. So the fight at the front is only getting more intense as Ross is trying to close. Here comes Adrian, that is Fred, and I don't care. Fred, go away please. There you go, Adrian, he goes up the inside of Kieran. Oh, a bit of contact between them two, and Kieran, he's still trying to fight for that position. Fred, can he go away? Right, you know what, Kevin, you go for it.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll take over for the fight for the lead. Of course, Adrian making the move, 2.8 seconds now. The gap for Ross Williams, 2.7 I should say, almost. And if they keep fighting like they are, then I'd say Ross Williams could certainly catch up. And he's also pulling Jared Fosbury along in the Renault as well. Jared Fosbury has just about been able to stick with Ross. I mean, really holding on. He's almost lost it, to be fair, but the DRS is just about holding, and actually he's almost lost all his DRS, so that maybe... Why is actually round? Kieran Spears is round. He went down the inside of Adrian into Stowe, and he's round. Which actually puts Ross in the driving seat for this win, if he can just close a few more tenths.
Kieran, he was looking like he was able to take this win, maybe on penalties, but it's all gone wrong for him in these final few laps, and he's behind as Antonio retires from the session too. I think we're a little bit too far away to be able to get another safety car, but Ross Williams, he only needs to gain 3 tenths, and he knows he only needs to gain 2 or 3 tenths. Yeah,
and by the way, Tom Jewell as well is now in a driving seat for an easy podium.
Yeah, it seems that way for sure, as... Well, that's changed the face of this race quite a lot, as Ross, he's not gaining like he was earlier in this race, except he's still so close. He's so close. He got the win last week for 7 thousandths, and he can do it again today, but Tom Jewell, he looks like he could get himself a nice little P3, as he's within the penalties range of Jared. There's about 2.5 laps to go. Ross, he's not catching like we saw him catching earlier on in the race, but he's still catching a little bit, so he just needs to push that little bit harder and get that little bit closer, and he can get this win.
Yeah, and those hards, of course, are really, at this point, very much should be the quicker tyre, and for the last 2 laps, those mediums are going to be screaming for help, really, at that point, because, like, I know they can go quite long, but, like, as I said, like, lap 15 is when you'd want to be pitting, and by the end of this race, they're going to be 4 laps kind of past their best before date, if you want to put it like that. So he should very much be catching, and as you can see, he's almost within 3 seconds once again, and this is kind of the same situation that we saw last week. Jared Fosbury was also there, except without a penalty last week. This week he has a penalty, but Jared Fosbury and Ross finding themselves on the same part of the track, and penalties is really what we're looking at. And once again, there you go, 2.9 momentarily between the top 2, so it's really down to, can Adrian hold on with those mediums, and can Ross maybe try and close up a little more? He's used quite a bit of his ERS, same with Adrian, they have around the same right now, so there's really no advantage for Ross right now on the ERS front, and Jared Fosbury of course sticking with him, so maybe putting a little bit of pressure on him. But yeah, for the last lap and a half, it's really going to be interesting on how those hards respond to the medium certainly going off at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight for who could take their second win of the season as it stands so far. But Ross, he keeps gaining time, getting within 3 seconds and then losing time, and then getting so close and losing it again. It's about to be the final lap of this race. Adrian, he won the first race this season, he came second in the second race. Can he get first again, or will he get second again? It's all down to Ross and how much pace he's able to do and how much pace Adrian's able to keep up coming into the final lap. As they come into the final couple corners, there's Adrian and Ross. He's within the 3 seconds now. He's within the 3 seconds coming onto the final lap. Can he stay there? It's going to be so close to the end. It's going to be so close between them, as it has been 2 races in a row now. Jared again in tow. He's still sitting there looking pretty, doing whatever Jared does. But it's only 100 between them still. They're within a tenth. They're within a tenth, and we're just going to sit and watch the gap, as it looks like Ross is able to catch now on this final lap. He's within it, but not comfortably. It's still very close. Adrian, he's going to be pushing.
The fight for 9th as well is certainly open wide. Timber Stadiums is trying to hold off Sean at the moment, and Storm. He's not going to have DRS on anyone in front of him. He is on the hard, so we should have an advantage there, but we may be able to see a little bit of a fight. Maybe not on this straight, but we could look out for that at the end.
yeah, that'll be fun to see as Sean's only 2/10 behind Tim. But the main thing we want to look at is the race win. That's what people care about. And that's what gets you the most points. But it looks like Russ, he's more comfortable now. He's got about a 3/10 gap to win. So he can make a small mistake, but very small. He's now got 4/10. He's gaining more and more. Both of them have had literally no ERS for Adrian. A little submission for Russ. It's coming into the final couple of corners into Sector 3. Jared still sitting behind. Adrian, he's coming into the final chicane now. He's coming through the second last corner. He's coming through the last corner. Russ, he's also coming through the last corner. Adrian takes it on the line. Russ Williams takes it on the penalties. Jared coming home P3. Tom Jewell
is actually going to come home
P3
because Jared since got 6 seconds apiece.
I never realised when Jared got 6, but
yeah,
Sean,
I didn't realise it either.
Sean behind Tim. Doesn't look like that's going to change in any way depending on whoever's penalties what. There you go, Sean goes up at P8. Adam had too many penalties. Tim had too many penalties. Storm coming in P12. And Reece March, the final guy who's just put onto the softs, coming home in P13 through Maggers and Beckett's. But Ross Williams, for the second race in a row, takes the win off of Adrian through penalties. So that's 2 races in a row where Adrian, going wide in a corner, one too many times, has lost him the race win. If this continues and Ross keeps taking these wins from him, then we know who could win the championship. It looks like these two are our strongest drivers, Kevin. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think we certainly have a title fight on our hands, because looking at the first round, it kind of looked like Adrian might have a little bit of an advantage, especially with Eric being gone as well. In the second round, he did get pens, but he was still quick. But of course, Ross has taken his second win in a row, and also this gives him the lead in the championship.
I mean, yeah, Ross Williams currently leading the championship as he walks out onto the podium, arms spread wide, as he takes the second win of the season, with Tom Jewell taking what I believe is his first podium, but Adrian's third podium now, as it is Ross Williams' third podium.
Ross Williams' third as well, yeah.
So it's very interesting between these two.
In the standings, because of course Ross gets the extra 2 points from getting. Oh no, wait, no, that was the other. I keep getting mixed up with these McLarens, man. Sorry.
Amazing.
It's 3 points between them in the standings.
Oh, even closer than we once thought. But there you go. Ross Williams takes his second win in a row and his second win of the season. On penalties again, starting P2. But Adrian, who actually started P7 in this race, got one too many penalties and lost himself that win the second race running, coming home in P2. Tom Jewell picking up his first podium of the season after starting on pole and unfortunately having a bad start to this race. So not bad from him coming back into P3. Nice comeback drive from him. Jared in P4, Kieran in P5, who looks so strong but unfortunately had that spin. Marcel's in P6 now, Louis Quinn in P7, Sean P8, Adam Corrigan in P9, getting some points for Alfa Romeo. Tim Brusain's coming home in P10, not great for AlphaTauri's constructors, but that's okay. Dominic Hardy coming in P11, Storm in P12, other people in other positions like Reece March in P13 and Antonio in P14. But there you go. What a race that was. Silverstone, it never doesn't deliver anyway. But Kevin, if you want to, invite people for the interviews, which you're doing, then you can.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Lovely stuff. But anyway, Silverstone, it delivered on the excitement for sure. There's plenty of fighting going on, plenty of side-by-side action, as all these drivers very, very close together. F2 does not disappoint, with always providing an entertaining racing. Close racing too, as we see it in qualifying. Drivers being only 100th away from each other. The top 5 only being within 2/10. And it's really crazy to see, and then that translates into the race as well, with having 5 drivers just in a tow with each other. All together fighting, and it's brilliant to see. And it's just consistency and attrition that seems to be the thing. That's,
they're out it now.
Lovely stuff. That's gaining people positions in the championship right now. So can Ross Williams continue his run of form and consistency, and can Adrian continue his pace? We're just going to have to wait and see as we come into what's the next track? Hungary. I mean, less racy, really. but suddenly World's consistency and not spinning. So that's going to be interesting to see. There we go, we have Adrian and Tom joining the party as...
My controller is about to die.
Then charge it. That's always recommended.
It's not working.
Oh, brilliant. But
Just
anyway...
check you don't want to take anyone, do you?
No.
Or do you?
No.
No? Okay.
No. Okay, anyway, Kim, I'm going to leave that to you. Interview away.
Guys, we're just waiting for Ross to join now. And there he is. So I'll just have to wait to actually... There we go. Okay. Alright, so then we'll kick it off now as everyone's here. So, Ross, if we have you first of all.
Yep.
Obviously, last week you took it on pens with a very small margin. This week it was a little more comfortable, and it was kind of won a little more on strategy today. But second win in a row, and this also gives you the lead of the championship. You must be happy.
Yeah, I think I had the pace today. Generally, I got a bit messed up in the pit stops. I had to double stack, so I lost about 4 positions. But I feel like I had the pace to win outright. If that hadn't happened, and just kept it clean, nearly cut a corner on the last lap, which was not a good idea. But very happy.
Yeah, obviously, for you weren't really too much involved in the fighting necessarily. You were kind of falling back at one point, kind of into a P6. Of course, you didn't have pens, so you were gonna gain to some degree, and you were, of course, really gaining a lot by the end. But in terms of your race, it seemed kind of a little quiet, I guess, until the end, I guess, because would have been pressure, but...
Yeah, I mean, nothing happened before the safety car. And then after the safety car, I just followed Neon round, and just he had a car in front of him and couldn't get past, so I couldn't get past either, so followed him around for about 15 laps and managed to get past both of them at the end, and won me the race, I guess. Nothing else happened at all.
Yeah,
So.
and obviously you've taken 2 wins this season. You've also taken the 3 podiums. Same with Adrian, which is why you're so close. Only 3 points between you and the championship, by the way. Going into Hungary, do you think you can maybe extend that gap? Do you think Adrian might take it back, or maybe someone else might take the win? What are you thinking for Hungary?
I'm not too sure. I think the quality's quite important, and I've been quite consistent so far with my qualities, so hopefully I could be at the front again, but this season seems to be quite up and down, so we'll see.
Yeah, and the undercut certainly works out as well as, I mean, it worked out for me last season, can gain you a lot, so that's certainly going to be something maybe you want to watch out for, as you'll be at the front, I would expect. So yeah, congratulations on your win and good luck for next week.
Thank you.
And then that would lead us on, of course, Adrian in second week in a row in second, and of course 3rd podium, but almost took it, but the mediums weren't good in the end.
Yeah, congratulations to Ross and Tom for the podium, but I mean, Ross, unbelievable. It must be an amazing feeling, to cross the line second and you've won. I mean, he probably laughed so hard. But yeah, congratulations to him. His teammate was actually quite fast today. I don't know who he is, but I had a few battles with him, kind of losing a little bit of time. Then unfortunately, I think we touched in that corner, and then yeah, I saw that Ross had no penalties. I had 3 seconds, and at the end, my left tire was about to explode with his teammate. But yeah, good race to everyone. Kind of messed up the quali, but it is what it is. I got a good start, so I kind of made up for it. And yeah, P2 is okay.
Yeah, obviously I think you did have an incident with Kieran, of course fighting for the lead. It was a really, really good battle, but I think it should kind of be asked. Do you know what happened? Do you think it was okay from your perspective, or that's in Stowe, by the way? If you remember.
Yes, I remember that, and I mean, I don't know. It's just so tough to overtake in that corner on the inside. You know, I tried it once on him too, and I had to back out, or otherwise, you know, I would have spun, and I think that's kind of what happened to him. Maybe he just didn't back out. I tried to leave room. You know, if he wants the footage, I can send the footage. Obviously, it's really unfortunate because he also had no penalties, so he was probably going to win the race, to be honest. I
Yeah,
feel
in
really
the
bad
end, he
about
did
that.
actually get a penalty, so it wouldn't have
Oh, he
actually
did?
changed on that front. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. But still unfortunate to end like that. But yeah, I think that's just from my point of view, it was just unfortunate.
Well then, seems just an unfortunate incident. Then, of course, no intention of anything there. Next week, Hungary. Of course, you've taken 3 podiums, so you'd kind of be expecting, I guess, to be on the podium again, and you are quick. So, do you think you could go for another podium next week? Maybe a win to try and take back the lead?
Honestly, I think it's just gonna, like Ross said, it's gonna come down to the qualifying because it's so hard to overtake there. And today I messed up the qualifying pretty bad. So if I do that next week, I'm probably not gonna be on the podium. And there's a lot of quick drivers here too. Um, so we'll see. I don't like that track too much. But yeah, I mean, it's just my penalties, man. Right now, that's really the one thing I need to fix.
Well, of course, congratulations on your P2, and good
you.
luck for next week.
Thanks.
And then we're going to finish with Tom Jewell. Of course, I think maybe not what you think could have happened today. You qualified on pole, and you certainly showed quite a bit of pace. I think you had the pole position by like over a tenth, or at least almost a tenth. So maybe it could have gone better there, but a good recovery to third. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it was a good race. First, I just want to say well done to Ross and Pickle on the podiums. I mean, they were fucking ridiculously quick, to be honest. And the other McLaren driver, I'm not sure who he was. Maybe he was a reserve, or I'm not sure, but he
Yeah,
was
I
quick.
was Kieran. He is a reserve.
Ah, okay. But yeah, no, I was gutted at the start. I'm not even sure what happened. Obviously, you know how shit I am at start, so I fell back, got sandwiched. I don't know what happened, to be honest. Probably my fault. But yeah, and then the next lap I got wing damage, so that set me back even further. But yeah, no.
Oh yeah, actually, something I want to ask: did you get wing damage from lap 1, or did you get it a few laps in?
No.
Like, what happened there?
Yeah, somehow I didn't get any damage from that. But then the next lap, going into the final chicane, I completely outbroke myself, and I think it was Rossi Boy. I sort of tapped back at him and got yellow damage. So that, yeah,
Okay.
I was just being a bit of an idiot. Yeah. No, but
Well,
otherwise I'm happy with the recovery drive, to be honest.
a question really, like, obviously you had the pole, and it looked like a comfortable enough pole. Do you think maybe you could have been fighting for the win if things went your way?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had the pace. I know my race pace isn't as quick as the other guys, but I mean, I feel like I had the pace. If I kept it clean with no penalties, like I did, I thought maybe I could get the win. But I said at the start I'd be happy with the podium, so
Yeah, and
I'm happy now.
I guess finally, like, obviously you, again, I keep saying it, but you took pole position. Maybe you could have taken the win today as well if things were different, but do you think you can continue this kind of form into the next races? Maybe start a bit of a title challenge? Of course, after quali, I certainly thought maybe this would be a turning point, but it is your first podium in F2, so do you think maybe you can kind of use this, especially the fact that you now know you can get a pole position? Do you think maybe you could carry this over into more races and maybe go for some wins?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm hoping so. The last 3 races, I feel like I've shown good pace. Just got unfortunate last week with JCK.